The next reason quite shocked me. This is terrible that this is happening. There seems to be a trend of foreigners leaving Singapore. And in this video, I want to talk about the reasons why so many expats currently leave Singapore. There's a huge disclaimer though. These are not my reasons and not my opinions because I'm not planning to leave Singapore. This really is my happy place. But these reasons come from conversations I had with other expats and forums I read on the internet of expats leaving Singapore. Number one, it seems to be really hard to find a life partner. And one of the main reasons is that a lot of expats come here as a couple already, mainly due to the job opportunity one of the persons has. So dating seems to be quite hard as a foreigner if you are looking to find a Western partner. I have a friend, she's actually really planning to move to Australia because of this reason. She's been single for 5 years now in Singapore and she's really unhappy and she wants to start a family and she just cannot find anyone here. So she says it's one of the main reasons why she leaves Singapore is to find a life partner. Number two, foreigners don't get any subsidies. And I talked about this to a lot of people here and they say it has become very unaffordable for them in terms of healthcare and they're looking to buy a house or an apartment. So they don't get any support from the government such as locals do. For example, if you are a local and you want to buy a house, you get a good amount of subsidies to buy your first HDB. So for a lot of foreigners, it's really not an option to buy a house financially. And I do understand that a lot of young couples who want to start a family, that's a big issue for them. And speaking of expenses, owning a car is very, very expensive in Singapore because you have to buy a certificate that gives you the permission to even buy a car, which is only valid for 5 to 10 years, depending on which one you get. And it can cost up to $100,000 just to get this permission, and you don't even have a car. And car prices are even double the amount you will pay in maybe Europe or other Western countries. Number three, lack of adventure. I don't fully agree with this, but this has been a reason I've heard a lot. People say Singapore is very small and they feel like they cannot go on a new adventure. They've experienced all the hikes, they've seen all the sights, and they just wanna go on road trips, do camping experiences. That's a bit hard to do in Singapore because you cannot really do any road trips or drive to many other countries except Malaysia. And yeah, if you're looking for a camping experience or for example a surf experience, Singapore has its limits. There is a beach, but it's not very suitable for surfing. So people miss the adventure, people miss driving around in their cars to explore new things. The next reason is a very obvious one. It's their families. And I can relate to this one the most, especially as I'm very close to my mom and my brother. And I miss my family every single day and also my close friends, which I've built a friendship over the last 20 years. It's hard to find such close friends in a short amount of time. It's not only that you want to be close to your friends and family when somebody's ill or maybe getting older, it's also for the positive and the exciting experiences such as a wedding or someone has a baby. And for me, I can really relate to that as my brother recently has passed his bar exam, which he has been studying for 2 years, and it was such a milestone in his life and I was not there to celebrate it with him. For me, it was very sad that I missed this opportunity to celebrate such an important moment of his life. So family is definitely a very big issue. Something else that surprised me a little bit was that people mentioned that they felt Singapore was quite anonymous. And what they said is that they felt like when they got into MRT, everyone was on their phone, which by the way, I'm guilty of as well. I'm usually checking messages or replying to comments, but they felt like in other countries people would interact in the MRT and you would maybe start a conversation with someone sitting next to you. And I know what they mean. When I was studying in Sydney, I would make friends just riding a bus because everyone would talk to each other and saying maybe hi, like love your handbag, where do you get it from? And you get to know people like even on in the most random occasions. So yeah, Singaporeans might be a bit more reserved. This also is due to respect to the privacy of other people, which I don't find a bad thing, but I can understand why people mention that, especially in, Latin American countries where everyone is always like in a good mood and talking to each other. It is a bit different from places like this. So that's another reason why people miss their home countries and maybe leave Singapore. The next reason quite shocked me because I have not experienced that myself, but this is terrible that this is happening and I wasn't aware of it until now that I did some research. I've talked to people that experience racism on a daily basis. For example, in their office where people would make just racist comments to them. And then I did some digging in online forums where a lot of people from India expressed their concerns that they feel like they are not treated as equal as Singaporeans would. I'm probably very lucky. I've never experienced any sort of racism towards me, which I'm very grateful for, but this is a terrible thing and I can understand that people who experience that they want to leave Singapore and go back to their home country. Let me know in the comments if you have experienced racism in Singapore. I think this is a topic that no one really talks about but seems to be an issue, and I would love to know, what your opinion is on that. And then my last reason, which for me is not an issue at all because I just love the weather. But yeah, it's a fact. Singapore has no seasons. There's no spring, there's no summer, there's no winter. It's 30 degrees all year long, which I personally love. And no seasons means that you can also never wear winter clothes. And for all the fashionistas out there, this can be quite frustrating sometimes if you want to wear some boots and maybe winter jackets. Yeah, you can't do that in Singapore. Another thing that people mentioned was that they felt like time was just flying by. You don't really get to experience the seasons and say, okay, now it's summer, it's like another chapter of the year. Everything is just like blending in, so they feel like they lose track of time. And people who have been here for multiple years, they sometimes told me, oh my god, they only wanted to stay for like a year and now they've been here for such a long time. But it stays a fact, for many foreigners it is simply too hot in Singapore. They have to shower twice a day. I do understand that this is a problem for some people. It's not for me. As mentioned, I love the heat. I'm never complaining. But yeah, people miss their seasons. So that's another reason why people move away from Singapore. That was it. I'm not leaving Singapore, but these were the reasons why expats leave Singapore these days. Leave me in the comments why you can think of leaving Singapore if you're an expat or if you're Singaporean and you want to move abroad. Check out my Instagram for more insights on how my daily life in Singapore looks like, and hope to see you in the next one. Bye.